Well, have you ever felt an absolute complete numpty? I've just done a complete service video on this ES200 and I hadn't pressed the record button. Okay, well, we're not going to untune it and retune it, so we'll just turn a 20-minute video into a 3-minute recap. So, we were doing the Skiptech ES2000 UK, no, ES2000, no, was it ES? I can't even remember what it was. We were doing the Skiptech, I'm sure it was ES2000 FM, a few days ago or a week ago, and we had 3 of them. We've got one which was ours, which was a bit nicotine tarnished. We've got one which was a bit scruffy. Both I'd bought off eBay, one with a decent aerial, one with no aerial. And then we had a customer repair which had such damage from ingress of moisture we weren't able to sort the transmit out. We could have got that going by changing a dozen capacitors and de-waxing the VCO. I'm sure that would have been a fix, but I just think it would be back, and the last thing you want to do is to produce an unreliable radio. It may be sometimes alright for us, but it's not alright for a customer. You know, we may buy a set for our demonstration purposes, or we know actually it's not going to be reliable, and it really doesn't matter, but it does when it's a customer's. So that, you know, was what we were discussing. And what I thought is that if I bought an ES200, Eurosonic ES200, when I was at Nottingham Radio, we probably sold a dozen of these, and we know, although we had CBs in stock to help our business customers, we probably sold 2 a year. So to actually sell a dozen walkie-talkies inside of about 6 months, we actually ended up with a supply problem. We couldn't get them that quickly. So we know these flew off the shelves, and I was saying on the last video that the 2 sockets differ. We've got something like 2.1mm and 1.9mm, something like that. This radio has come with a cigarette power lead and its original factory aerial, which is very important in why I paid top whack for this. And I don't mind telling you I paid $49.99 for this, which to me, you know, somebody who buys scrap radios for £2 is a lot of money. Delivered, but it did say it worked. Well, it kind of works. I've just got to look into the iffy PTT switch. So, one of those kind of sets that boots up on channel 9 annoyingly. We get that into channel 20, which is the centre of band where we're working on it. It's got a BNC socket, and it's also got an extension speaker socket, which is, of course, very helpful for doing the tune-ups. So we've got the charger socket, and it tells you it's 125 milliamps it's looking for, which is brilliant. And it says it's 12 volts in, and it also tells us it's centre positive. So a lot of good points there. And when I opened this up, I seriously thought that it was going to be the same as the Skiptech. And you start off by taking the back off, and I was greeted with no screening plates on this one. There was something at the top there. So I thought this is different. And when I take the top off, we actually find that the subboard for the display is fibreglass, and when I actually look, the whole board's fibreglass. It's a double-sided fibreglass board, and I would like to say that what are these? 1989, 1990, 1991, something like that. I would say these are the first fibreglass boarded CB radio handhelds that we saw. So, what has the tune-up been? Well, I've brought it on frequency. We're able to adjust the trimmer just there, the green trimmer, for frequency. It was within spec, but it was slightly out, so I've done that. Transmit, doing 2.5 watts. I think we've got about 2.8 out of it now. Certainly not 4 watts. It's probably sold as a 3 watt set. It may even be sold as a 2.5 watt set. It may also be sold as a 4 watt set, but there may be lying wattses. So we've got transmit, transmit, transmit is the lineup, and then we've got one there. So we've been able to maximise that slightly. The detector, we found this is one of the IF, and this is the one that is going to affect the detector the most. And it's slightly lopsided. It's come in doing 0.41 microvolts for 12 decibel SINAD, which is excellent. I've now peaked the front end with these four, and we've now got 0.31 microvolts for 12 decibel SINAD. The deviation is the preset there, and the squelch preset is the preset there. And the squelch action is coming in at just under 1 microvolt, and it's leaving it 0.85 microvolts at the best sensitivity setting. And at full squelch, I can open it now, having adjusted it, at S9, which is 100 microvolts equivalent. So everything works as it should do, and it should track scratchy corner perfectly. Now, there's one or two things I was now going to move on to, and the first thing was, oh yeah, I know what I was going to say. High-low power is 0.4 of a watt, as it should be. So it's, if it was 4 watts on high power, which it isn't, but it's 0.4 on low power, which is excellent. If you remember, the Skiptech had a bizarre 0.9 of a watt for its low power, whereas MPT 1320, which is the UK legal stamp for this era of set, dictates that it's 0.4 watts on low power, which this set is. And I went on to say that the reason behind that is if you had your base aerial, I think it was 7 meters from local ground level, you're supposed to cut your power down to 0.4 of a watt. That was the legislation. And this was all to do with the CAA, but it got relaxed a bit later on with the CB 2794 update. So that's where we got to. The transmit switch is a bit dodgy, and I'm now going to pause the video, which is exactly what I went to do to find it wasn't recording in the first place, and I'll just look into that. So what I've done is to put some service oil into the tactile switch. Hopefully that's going to improve matters for the transmit. I've checked the soldering, it's been resoldered before, and I've unsoldered it and resoldered it just in case it's that, but it's actually the contact in the tactile switch, I can tell. So just while I've got this all on the screen, I will just show you the SINAD I said. So we've got, let's put 0.41 on the attenuator. That's strange, it's better now. How bizarre is that? So it's now showing 0.33, which... oh yeah, that's what I said I got it to, isn't it? Yeah. Something like that, 0.31. Yeah, it was 0.41, I got it to 0.315 it's showing. So I'll just show you the, there we have 12 decibels. So that's improved dramatically. And then on transmit, we'll just go to that one. We're on the 3 watt scale, so full scale deflection is 3 watts. And it's just doing about 2.5. So, out of interest, let's play with the power supply. It's my set. I'm at 12.7 volts. I've just popped it at 14.4, which is where my car would charge if this was inadvertently plugged into that level. And it's doing 3.2 watts. So I wouldn't like to run it at that power. It's a 12 volt radio. At 13.8 volts, it's doing 2.8 watts. I'm quite happy to run it at 12.8, for example, in which case I'll go back to the lower scale. It's doing 2.5 watts. And if we go right down to 11.9 volts, it's doing 2.1 watts. So it's very dependent on the input voltage. So we're going to say it's probably a 3 watt set, and it's being sold and we're managing to get 2.5 out of it. So we've got tone high and low, which I can't make do any difference. LED off, up and down on the side, the sockets, charger, external power, earphone. Now I'm going to see if I can find a Maxon Apex microphone and see whether it's compatible with that socket. So having had a look round for the speaker mic I knew we had, they turn out to be for the SL70, so they've got the Hiroshi connector and not the 3.5mm, 2.5mm, so that remains a mystery. So, there you go. 2.5 watts, decent receive, sensitive squelch, deviations come up from 1.4 to 2.5 maximum, and it looks like it's going to be okay on our tests. So I'm going to put this back together. We'll just unpower that. Next time we get one in, we'll try and remember to press the record button. Okay, so with that we'll put it on the air, have a quick flick round the channels, and what time is it? 11:15 on a Friday morning. Of course, we're running this on external power, aren't we? Can't hear that tone making any difference. 1-9, Roger. Somebody out there? There tend to be farmers on that channel. A bit more activity than often. Okay, so there we have it, the Eurosonic ES200 CB from round about 1989, 1991 era, and we'll do an on-the-air test later where we run it from the bench on the roof aerial, and we'll do a field test as well when Mr. Chippy takes it out and about with the body cam and runs it on batteries and its own antenna as originally intended. So thanks for watching the Eurosonic ES200.